Ciao tutti. Thank you everybody for tuning in to Pass the Wire TV. And it's going to be really hard to follow up last week's show with Steve Haskin, Derby Radar, where we just had the absolute pleasure of having Steve on, and he and I discussing some really, really interesting points and key things to look at when you're looking at the Kentucky Derby this far in advance. Some great takeaways. If you haven't seen last week's Kentucky Derby Radar show with Mr. Haskin, it is absolutely worth checking out. Great show. Great to have him on. And I'm going to ask him to come on again next week after the Risen Star, which we'll get to in a minute. Hopefully he can make it happen. We'll see what happens. But I'm going to ask him. And if you want him back, put it in the comments. Let him know how much we loved him and how appreciated he was. And maybe it'll make it harder for him to say no. So we got the Risen Star. We're going to cover the Risen Star. We'll get there in a minute. But first, I got to say, once again, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for joining us. And
you're watching Past the Wire TV, presented by Am Wager.
And now we're going to get into the Risen Star and see if we can find that diamond that sticks out and jumps out and says, yeah, I'm the one. We're going to try. So, the CHR reports that we've been doing, and, it's taken, I'd say, a year and a half to develop this. We evolved pace points into it. They've been rocking. I don't know anybody who's checked them out and does not love them. We've got on the website, free for anybody to go look at and check them out. We've got the Risen Star. We've got, the Rachel Alexandra. Phenomenal tool. Unquestionably an edge. Want to compete with those CAWs? Yeah, we ain't going to be betting the last minute batch betting, but we ain't playing for rebates anyway. So it doesn't matter. We got the edge. We can go up against them. We ain't worried about it. We don't love the situation, obviously, with them and the rebates and everything else, but that's a whole nother issue. But we're in the fight, and we got a tool that can help us compete. So check it out. Costs you nothing to check it out right now. And there's also a very good explanation on a website that will explain why I sometimes differ from the model. You got the man in the machine. And sometimes when everybody says zig, I zag. And it explains all of that on there. So well worth checking out. Clip that. I think you'll enjoy it for sure. So, see the CHRs. You'll see what goes into them and what they provide if you haven't already, and if you have checked them out, let me know in the comments what you think. If you enjoy these shows, the Thorograph Numbers and Patterns, and you could all get free Thorograph numbers for these races. Get the sheets. You know, let me know what races you want us to do going forward. Hit that like button. Let us know you like the shows. It certainly helps with the YouTube algorithms. So we appreciate that. And if you're not subscribed to Past the Wire TV, what are you waiting for? It's you know, it's a win-win situation without a doubt. And you know what I always say, you ride with us, you'll never starve. And that is a fact. So with that, let's get into this risen star and see what the Thorograph numbers and patterns tell us. If you don't have them, you could get them at Past the Wire. You just follow the Thorograph links, write the Thorograph, enter your email. I think you get them downloaded right away. Bing, bang, boom. You got them. Forget about it. You can't go wrong with free Thorograph numbers. Why wouldn't you? It's like people that complain about takeout that are not betting with AmWager that's offering zero takeout on certain races at certain tracks on certain days. You got to be out of your mind. Might as well go outside, stand in the street, give money away. Right? I mean, think about it. Who does that? I don't know. I guess some people do, but it's not a formula for success, that's for sure. All right, let's see what we got. We know we got 3-year-olds. We know we got Derby points. We know we got some nice horses, and we're going to have some good patterns. But last week we were spot on. And how about on Derby radar, sure bet coffee of the day, play of the day, Plutarch, Derby contender, Derby horse for sure, and 4-1 in that field. I think we're stealing money, but all right, we're moving on to the risen star, because what have you done for me lately? You're as good as the last race. So, or the next race in this case. Universe. What do we got with Universe? Ken McPeak. We've talked about Ken McPeak so many times on these shows that he's a tough read. Here we got a horse that had a really nice pattern at 2. And getting fast and getting good. We got 13, 7 1/4, 8, 6 1/4. We love when they go past that 2-year-old number or equal it first time as a 3-year-old. Guess what? He didn't. 14 1/2. When we take our high-level look at the past performances after we run through these numbers, we'll see if we can figure out why that was. Golden Tempo. Golden Tempo's only had 2 starts. He runs a 10 first time out at the fairgrounds. There was some talk that he might have been a little bit short, might have needed a race. I don't buy into that hype and that kind of stuff. Chevy DeVoe sends him out ready, as far as I'm concerned. First time as a 3-year-old, goes long. Runs a 7 3/4, getting thrown to the wolves in a stake. So, impressive on the pattern, and he's going to be impressive on the past performances too. We know that, but we'll get to him. But so far, he's got a forward-moving pattern. Universe has a mystery regression first time as a 3-year-old, and we'll see if there's a legit excuse for that in the PPs. And if there is, he may be worth talking about. If there's not, I don't like it. Brendan Walsh has Carson Street. Carson Street's got 15 1/2, 12 1/2, 11, 12 and a half. Kind of okay. Not really doing anything to set the world on fire at 2. Doesn't make a little bit of a forward move. First time at 3-year-old to a 10. Probably going in the right way and doing it a little bit slowly. I tend to think there's going to be, faster ones than him in here. And he's probably going to have to go forward somewhat considerably to contend. Paladin, only 2 starts, 5 3/4 and 6. So he regressed a little, but from 5 3/4 to a 6, going from a maiden special to the Remsen, I'm not going to really hold that against him. It's no secret he's been the #1 horse on my Derby radar. since his maiden race. That's not really changed, even though Plutarch moved up. His stock went up for sure after that last race, and a lot more people will be looking at him now. But Paladin is for real. Those are very respectable numbers for a 2-year-old. I expect him to go past that first time at 3, and I think he's absolutely the horse to beat. And I'm not sure they're going to be able to do it. Chip Honcho. Chip Honcho's got a nice pattern. 8 1/4, 10, 7.5. Then he repeats the 7.5 first time as a 3-year-old, and now runs back pretty quickly. I tend to think he's gonna, he's taking blinkers off, but I tend to think he's gonna run very close to that 7.5 and maybe even a little past it. But if Paladin goes forward off the 5 3/4 into 6, he's got an edge on anybody else that's going forward unless they really make a significant jump. Colt 47 for Keith DeSormo. More starts than we're used to seeing at 2 years old. Already got to start at 3. What do we got? We got 33 3/4, 24 3/4, 19, 19.5, 18 1/4, 12.5, 12 3/4. Got a little faster at the end of the 2-year-old year, but certainly nothing to set the world on fire. Comes back at 3. Didn't really get faster. Runs at 12 3/4. Kind of maintaining where he's at. I don't see him, nearly fast enough to win. I'm going to say he looks like he's too slow. Courting's interesting. Todd Pletcher, we know how dangerous Todd is. We've got 9 3/4, 9 3/4, 7.5. Now he makes his first start at 3. I expect him with blinkers on to go past the 7.5 and 2-3 points past that to a 5, 4 and change, maybe even, a 3. Puts him right there with Paladin possibly. So I got to say Courting is a very, very dangerous horse in this race with a very, very, very nice pattern going forward. Last, not least, Quality Mischief from Brad Cox. Brad's always dangerous. We know that. We got 22.5, not so great at 2, goes to a 21, and then jumps all way forward. Goes from that 21 all the way to a 7 1/4. Of course, first time as a 3-year-old, he regresses off that huge forward move and runs 11.5. I expect him to go forward. I expect him to claw back towards that 7, maybe even pass it by a point and run into 6s. Not going to be fast enough to beat Paladin, in my opinion, and maybe not Courting if he goes forward, and maybe not Golden Tempo if Golden Tempo goes forward again. So you've got some good patterns. You've got Universe, who is a question mark until we look at the past performances. We've got Golden Tempo going forward, fast enough to win. Carson Street going forward, not fast enough to win. Paladin going forward, absolutely fast enough to win. Chip Honcho, going forward, probably fast enough to win. Colt 47, not fast enough to win. Courting going forward, fast enough to win. Quality Mischief going forward, probably not fast enough to win. So that's the Thorograph Numbers and Patterns. And now we'll kind of do a little bit of a deep dive and see if we can decipher on our high-level look at the past performances, who's going to win this race, and how these Thorograph numbers help us land on what? What do we want to land on? We want to land on this because this is going to make us this. It's not a tough formula. So that's what we're looking for. Okay, Universe. Blink is on. A lot of stake experience. Wins first time out at Saratoga, always respectable. Runs okay into Champagne to Napoleon Solo, who freaked that day. Comes back, runs second in the Street Sense at Churchill Downs, second in the Kentucky Jockey Club. Now, last away, broke dead last, outrun, puts blinkers on, was the favorite in the Smarty Jones. I don't see any major excuse for that tail off. Putting blinkers on, I don't know. Trying to wake him up, trying to get him back on track, trying. I'm not buying it. I would need to know or see or get a better feel for what caused the clunker last time out. It was his first start from the rail. Maybe that had something to do with it. Maybe not. But guess what? He's on the rail again. So if it was the rail, then he doesn't really get any help getting off it. So I'm going to pass on Universe, and I'm going to take the naysayers approach based on the Thoragraphs and on the past performances, because I just don't see the kind of excuse I would need to see in that race last time out at Oaklawn Park. Golden Tempo. Golden Tempo did something. He's a curling out of a Bernardini mare, and Bernardini is a good. How do I say this right without sounding like I don't know what I'm talking about. Bernardini is a good producer of mares that are good producers, if that makes sense. Curlin, we all know. Golden Tempo did something that is tough to do. He goes off the pace in his first start sprinting and wins. And then routing, he's able to go off the pace and win with that same kind of kick. Now, we've talked a lot on the show over the years. I've mentioned that it's the opposite of what everybody thinks. Everybody thinks when a horse comes off the pace sprinting, they're crying for more distance. Sometimes they are, but a lot of times, first time they go 2 turns, they don't have that same punch and same kick. Well, let me tell you something. This horse split horses. He came flying late. Going long first time out, 2 for 2 at the fairgrounds. Now he gets 1 1/8 miles, which he should like even more than the 6 furlongs and the 1 1/16 that he's already won at. Very, very dangerous horse, no question about it. Comes home nice, no question. And that long fairgrounds stretch suits him really, really good. Carson Street. Carson Street should be close to the pace here, I would think. Maybe not making the pace, but should be relatively close. Golden Tempo got him last time. He went by 11 lengths in the slot before that. His best race is that sloppy race. I think he's a pace factor. I think he's going to be around for a little bit. But I think you've got horses that are going to be able to outfinish him for sure. Golden Tempo certainly being one of them. He's done it already. He's more experienced now. So I think you should get him again. Paladin, he first time out, he goes a mile. Not easy to do. Runs Renegade, the Sam Davis winner, to a head. Gets put up via disqualification of Renegade. Comes back, faces Renegade into Remsen, and beats him. We talked on Derby Radar, Steve Haskin and I, about how Renegade hesitated a little bit, changing leads in that race, and that happened right when Paladin was making his move, and it might have slowed him up a little bit and made the margin a little bit bigger than it might have been. And Renegade certainly came out of that race to win the Sam Davis at Tampa Bay. So, key race, key horse, a horse to beat. He's going to be able to sit close. Comes home in 12-3 in a Remsen. That's really, really good. He's going to get the jump on Golden Tempo. And I think that very well may make the difference. Now he loses Pratt, who rode him 2 times for Tyler Gaffalione. Yes, Tyler did win the Pegasus, and since then he's been riding a little bit better than he was. But going into the Pegasus, I had mentioned to a couple of people that I thought Tyler was in a little bit of a slump. I didn't think he was riding as good as he normally did. I thought the circuits that he rode at this year were a little bit strange and not really where I would expect top tier rider to be during certain times of the year, and I was a little curious about that. Don't really know what's behind it, but he's going to need to have him in the right spot and ride good. And when Tyler's on, he can ride with anybody, and he's very tough and very aggressive, and I like him a lot. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But this horse should sit close, get to jump on the deep closes, and be very, very hard to outfinish down the lane. He should be the favorite, and he should be a handful. Chip Honcho. Blinkers off, Chip Honcho, off 2 good races with blinkers, but he did win with blinkers off. I'm not wild about the blinkers on, blinkers off move with a horse that seems to be running pretty well. But he does get one thing I like. He gets Luis Saez for Paco. Paco, no knock on Paco, excellent rider, but Luis is a special rider, and he moves horses up. And I think I have to upgrade this horse a little bit because of that jockey switch. Now, enough to make him a contender, yeah, but like him for the win, no. I don't. Golden Tempo was able to handle him. He's had blinkers off before. It's not like it's going to be lights out, even though his best buyer, if you believe in buyers, came with, without the blinkers. He ran an 82 in the mud at Churchill Downs and win. But I'm not sold on him as a winner in here. Even with Saez, I think they'll get him in that long fairground stretch. And I think Paladin and Golden Tempo are both good enough to get by him down the lane. Clip that. Colt 47, I don't know, just looks too slow and looks over his head. He's been in non-winner of 1, non-winner of 2 lifetime. He did win, claiming 50,000. Broke his maiden for 30,000. Just looks slow and a cut below. Courting. Okay, Courting came home 4th by 7 lengths in the Remsen, the race that Paladin beat Renegade. Now he makes his first start at 3. He's a Curlin out of a Bernardini mare himself. Cavorting was the mare. She showed a lot of high promise early on, and then just didn't really put it together. I think Cavorting was actually out of Rachel Alexandra, if memory serves correct, but never really materialized to the potential that it looked like she had. But a lot of times the offspring does, Obviously, they think she's a router. She runs a mile first time out, runs okay, 4th by 2 1/4. Comes back, breaks her maiden at a mile at Aqueduct, then breaks his maiden, then goes right into the Remsen, and runs a credible race to Paladin and Renegade. Bumped at the start and improved. Now he's 3. He's grown up. He gets blinkers on. I think he's eligible to go forward and get a lot closer to those horses. Now, if they're moving forward too, I'm still going to give the edge to Paladin because Golden Tempo has my respect, but Paladin gets the jump, and I think that's going to be key because I don't think he's going to be easy to outfinish and run down. So so far I'm still there, but Courting is intriguing, and I wouldn't talk anybody off going in this direction. Quality Mischief, looks okay. It is Brad Cox. I upgrade, Brad Cox into mischief, but he lost to Golden Tempo. He lost to Chip Honcho. I think that these are a little bit better than those, being, Paladin and maybe even Courting. So I don't get to him. It's interesting to see Florent Giroux back on a Brad Cox horse after moving out west and not riding some other Brad Cox horses that he used to ride. So I don't know exactly what's going on or what's happening between those two, but I don't see it. I think it's Paladin's race to lose, and I think that the difference maker is going to be the trip and him getting the jump on both Golden Tempo and Courting. And I think the Thorograph supports that, and I think that a high level look at the past performances support that. So Paladin, who is at this point my top Kentucky Derby radar early horse, and pretty soon it ain't going to be that early. But I think he's going to be able to get the job done in the Risen Star. Let's see what the CHR says. I already know because I cheated and looked at it. But if you want to know, you're going to have to go to PastTheWire.com and see. We are not in agreement on this particular race. And it's kicked my butt a couple of times, but I've outplayed it a couple of times, and a lot of times we're in agreement. It is based on all of my handicapping principles, so it stands to reason that we're going to like a lot of the same horses together. Those algorithms and analysis methods are all based on what I do. So. It's just, common sense that it would mirror me on many occasions. I wish I was more creative. I wish there was a bigger price, but we know from past experience, I've said it, I never win at the fairgrounds. Never. I just never have luck there. It never works out. So my strategy will be Paladin as a single to close out that late pick 5. Hopefully I can get some value in prices leading up to it. So we'll see what happens. I'll probably get knocked out before I get to Paladin, and I'll have to watch Paladin win, and I just won't be able to, find a way to play him. But we'll see what happens. We'll play it by ear and see if we could structure the right kind of ticket. And you never know. Maybe finally, one time, I'm finally going to connect at the fairgrounds, catch a 20-to-1 shot, a 15-to-1 shot, some nice prices in that late pick 5, and ride home a big one with Paladin as a single to close the deal and head home for the races the way that we like to.
Here comes journalism, here comes sovereignty, and they square off, heading to the final front. Sovereignty wins the Derby!
You're watching Past the Wire TV. Hit that like button and subscribe to Past the Wire TV. Nobody does it better.